Good evening and welcome to the Smyrna Town Council workshop to set our agenda for our March meeting. Before we move into our items for discussion, I'm going to ask Steve Sullivan to do our prayer, and I'm going to ask Tim Morrell to do our pledge.
Dear Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for the opportunity to come before our town and offer leadership and our voluntary efforts to help lead this community, Lord. We ask that you continue to bless the town of Smyrna, continue to look over and bless each of us in our daily lives, Lord, and we ask that everything that would happen here today would be pleasing in your eyes. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
You would face the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Steve. And Tim? We will move into our items for discussion. Our first is consideration of a resolution relative to a plan of services for property located on tax map 49, parcel 39.01. Kevin?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is the plan of services for the annexation. That's your first item on your agenda, or the next item on your agenda for the annexation request. This would be put in writing that the town would be providing all services to this area except for water, as this does lie within Consolidated Utility District's water service area. The Planning Commission did review this and did recommend it to you.
Questions for Kevin on this? Move on to item 2, which is consideration of an ordinance relative to the annexation and R3 zoning of property located on tax map 49, parcel 39.01, requested by RHB LLC, containing approximately 13.16 acres. The property is also referenced by 1294 South Lowry Street, and this is a second reading. Kevin?
Yeah, this is an annexation and R3 zoning request of a little over 13 acres. It is addressed as 1294 South Lowry Street. It's accessed by crossing railroad tracks there, as well as via Corner Drive. It also has access to Burton Farms Drive. It's not utilized currently. This is consistent with our land use plan for that area. Again, the town would be providing all services except for water. Sewer is available from Burton Farms, and also CUD has indicated that flow is sufficient for fire hydrants there. We did review this. Planning Commission did review it. It did recommend it to you. Nothing has changed on this since you looked at it at first reading.
Questions for Kevin on this one? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 3, which is consideration of a resolution and memorandum of ordinance 21-05 relative to the annexation R3 zoning of property located on tax map 49, parcel 39.01, comprising of a total of approximately 13.16 acres. We will put that on the agenda. We'll move on to item 4, which is consideration of an ordinance relative to the rezoning of property located on tax map 28, parcel 44.07, to go from R6 to PRD. This is requested by Greg Waldron, containing approximately 91.66 acres. The property is located on Old Nashville Highway, and it is a second reading. Kevin?
Yes, this is a rezoning request for a large tract of land from R6 to PRD. The proposed PRD is for a development containing 1,283 apartment units, which is about 14 units per acre, which is a little bit less density than what is allowed currently and under the R6 zoning. Would be divided into 4 separate complexes. They would kind of be built one at a time. Access would be from Old Nashville Highway via a new public street, as well as an extension of Needham Drive. There would also be a new public street which would connect to the large property to the east, which would provide a connection in addition to Genie Lane, and it is something that is shown on our thoroughfare plan to have that extra or second connection there. Units would be largely 1 and 2 bedroom, ranging from 750 to 1,100 square feet. Block 4 would also have some townhome units. All units would be masonry and cement board siding. The streets are proposed to have a landscape median and parallel parking in some portions. Front setbacks would be 20 feet to provide a more urban feel to the streetscape, and a large park area is proposed, which would be maintained and used by all 4 phases of the development through an association. And each individual phase will have amenities as well. So did include the pattern book, again, nothing has changed on this since you looked at it on first reading. The planning commission did review this and did recommend approval.
The only question I've had since our last meeting was about the cemetery. Can you talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
the cemetery, of course, is currently there. It's in between this tract of land and the commercial tract of land that has been under development for some time. It will still maintain its current boundaries, and it will still have access to Old Nashville Highway just as it does today. There's nothing changing with that. The development will be all around it, but it will still be there and be able to function just as it has been.
Okay. Any other
People
questions?
asking me about the elevators. All the four-story buildings will have elevators, that's correct?
Yes,
And there are three-story buildings in section 4 that will not?
right. There's section 4, and I think in some in section 3 as well that would not have
3 and 4,
elevators.
okay.
3
So it's
and
1
4.
and 2 where the elevators are.
Correct.
How many places in town do we have parallel parking these days?
I don't know that we have any, other than a few. I think there's a few and some commercial spaces, I think, that are kind of tight maybe, along maybe on the other side of Lowry from where we're at. They were proposing to have some. I don't know if they actually constructed any. There was some in that first phase of Lennox where there was going to be some live-work buildings, which it ended up, you have some live-work buildings on one side, but primarily all residential. And that first, kind of coming from Old Nashville Highway into Lennox, there was some proposed there. But I don't know, and we've had, in Greystone, there was some talk about that and on that section, some of their area. I don't know if they're gonna actually have any, but there was some talk about it out there.
The parallel parking is just in section 3 and 4, is that correct?
Actually, it's in, let me see if I can find that. It's in the, if you look in the book, let me see what page it's on. As far as the street parking, if you look,
Tree-lined streets, if I recall right.
the tree-lined streets, yes. If you look on page, I think it's 28, 29, and 30, it shows kind of where the parallel parking would be.
Is that the one that shows the 60-foot right-of-way on the?
Yes, there's a page 28, page 29, there isn't parking, parallel parking on the entry. As you come in from Old Nashville Highway, there would not be a parallel parking in that section. You would have parallel parking once you got past that, kind of where there's a TVA easement, I think, through there. And then Needham, as you come from Jeannie Lane, would have some parallel parking. So really 28 and 30 show kind of the areas where there would be parallel parking along the street.
Is, when you move fire trucks through there and you've got parallel parking, is that taken into account?
Yes, I mean, they're still gonna have the same width of the lanes as you would have without the parking. They would be outside the travel lanes of the street, yes.
And the fire
Completely
trucks can
outside.
move around in this whole complex, okay?
Yeah, and Chief Culbertson and I talked a little bit about that. He has some concerns with some of the curves, some of the turns and those kind of things. We would look at that typically at a lot more detail at the subdivision or site plan stage of this. But certainly that is something we would take into account. They would have to meet all the fire code and fire access. They can't, as far as access to within 400 feet of all the points of the building and all those kind of things. They'll have to meet all those requirements.
Back to the elevators.
Help me refresh my memory. Do they do that off of stories or floors, or do they do it off of number of stairs? Such as, like 3 stories would be 2 sets of stairs. Which way do they come on? Which way do they use? It's 4 stories, right? Anything at 4 stories is required.
Well, above, that's where the fire, I'm sorry, not the fire department, the state fire marshal's office gets involved above, I believe it's the 4 stories or more,
Okay.
or maybe 3. I can't remember exactly. It's 3 or more. as far as the fire marshal's part of it, as far as what the fire code requires, I think it may be 4 or more is where the elevator kicks in. Or could somewhat be somewhat a developer's preference too, as far as when they want to do them or not do them at some point. I don't know exactly when the fire code kicks in,
Okay.
that it's actually mandatory.
But it's not required at 3 stories,
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we certainly have 3-story
which is
apartments
2
in
flights of
town.
stairs.
Right.
normally.
We have 3-story apartments all over town
Yeah.
without elevators in them.
I didn't know if they counted it off the flights of stairs or if they counted off the number of stories.
And honestly, that's probably a question I don't know that I know the answer to. I can see if I can find out and have it for
Okay.
you for the council meeting.
I think it's a number story.
Numbers, okay.
So Jerry, can you, so I guess I'm still trying to understand the question that you're asking, like, are they using stairs in place of an
Yeah, that's what I'm
elevator
wondering,
because
like-
of the number of stairs?
Let's say if a story actually went down, so you go down 1 flight of stairs, but your bottom floor or your ground floor is maybe at level 2.
Okay.
So does that count from the very bottom up, or does it start counting from your ground level up?
Okay.
Other questions?
Were there any discussions on where that bus stop would be, if there needs to be one? Did y'all actually look at?
We haven't had any additional discussions with them. They'll be required. You're probably looking at, to me, you're looking at at least one per complex. So you're probably gonna have multiple stops in here. It's a development this size with that many units. So, I mean, and as far as the exact location, no, I haven't talked with the school board or anything at that point regarding that yet.
Okay. You said it's gonna be required, so I'm good with that. I just know
Yeah.
when it was posed before, it was more of the position that we're probably not gonna need it and dismissed. And I don't wanna take for granted that that won't be something that is needed.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I
if you
think.
say it's required, I'm okay.
I think you have to assume that even, yes, maybe there won't be as many children maybe in a typical, because there's gonna be a lot of 1 and 2 bedroom units. I still think you have to assume there could be children there that will need a bus stop.
Not just single women and dogs.
Right. I think that'll be it.
That's what he said.
Any other questions or comments? Item 5 is consideration of an ordinance to create the Town of Cernan Municipal Code Title 6-401 to 6-405 relative to the policy and procedure for distribution of unclaimed property by the police department. This is a second reading. Jeff?
As you know, we discussed this more extensively at the first council meeting. This basically just provides a mechanism for selling the unclaimed property that the police department has from over time, and this will be able to keep the back lot a little clearer and also storage cleared out a little bit better.
Questions for Jeff on this? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, which is consideration of an ordinance relative to the amendment to the Town of Smyrna Municipal Code Title 8 Alcoholic Beverages, Chapter 2 Beer, Section 8-214, 1, 2, 4, and 5, permits for certain premises prohibited. This is a second reading. Jeff?
Mayor and council, as we discussed as well previously, currently the town requires a distance from funeral homes, hospitals, licensed daycare facilities, schools, churches, etc., for the sale of beer, 500 feet for on-premise and 250 feet for off-premise. Keeping in mind that someone can sell something of a higher content, over 8%, with a state license, and these distances would not be required. So they could move in at locations where they couldn't sell beer. And in looking to what many of the other municipalities are moving towards, as well as just our own research, we have proposed removing the distance requirements. This by no means would change any of the activities of the beer board. They would also still be the body that grants those permits and also will be the enforcement body for any of the prohibitions that are not allowed by permit holders.
Questions for Jeff? Okay, move on to item 7, which is consideration of an ordinance amending Title II, Chapter 1 of the Smyrna Municipal Code relative to the Arts Commission. This is a second reading. Raquel or Jeff?
As far as the legal side of it, this amendment would simply just delete Title II, Chapter 1, and we would reserve it for any text we may need later. This would obviously remove the Arts Commission as a public body.
Anything else? That's it? Okay. Any questions for Jeff or Raquel? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 8, which is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute an agreement with Garland DBS Incorporated relative to the existing gutters, downspouts, and fascia board at the Fire Station 2, which is 644 Fitzhugh Boulevard. Chief, how are you tonight?
Fine, Mayor, Council. As you read, Mayor, we need to do some work on the outside of Station 2, which is the fascia board and the downspouts and the existing gutters. And I'm here this evening to ask council if they would be kind enough to give the mayor permission to sign the contract for them.
Questions?
This is just ordinary wear and tear. This was already something that needed to be done. This didn't happen as a result of all our weather issues.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Anything else for Chief? Seeing nothing, we'll move on to item 9, which is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute contract amendment number 3 with TDOT relative to the State Route 1 from Jackson Street to Sam Davis Road.
Mayor and council, this contract agreement extends the contract completion date from June 30th of 2021 to June 30th of 2022. This allows us the extra construction time plus to do all the closing paperwork within the contract confines.
Questions for Charles? Okay, we'll put that on the agenda and move on to item 10, which is consideration of submission of public debt notices to the Comptroller of the Treasury. Rex?
Mayor and council. As you know, we've done this several times before. Every time we take on public debt, the comptroller requires us to announce this at a public meeting. And we would like to announce that at the next council meeting and have the mayor to be able to sign the document. The two loans that we're referring to in these two forms, one is for $3 million for a water meter replacements project in the Water and Sewer Fund. And the other is for $17,200,000 at the wastewater treatment plant expansion. The wastewater treatment plant expansion was at an interest rate of 0.9%. And for the water meter replacements is 0.68%.
It's not too bad, is it, you think?
Very nice. Wish I could get that.
Me too. Questions for Rex on this? Okay, item 11 is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute a contract with Miracle Recreation for the installation of a new playground at Sharp Springs Natural Area. Mike?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, council, staff has coordinated the purchase and installation of a new playground at Sharp Springs Park. It's going to be the first one, actually, at that park, and we've worked through the Sourcewell Co-op contract with Miracle Recreation to come up with a design and also the purchase and install. We always bring the installation contract to town council for review and approval. The installation cost will be $7,000 with a total cost of $49,985 for the playground as installed. This one will be located at near the Patty King O'Connor shelter, near an existing parking lot. That way we can not have to build an additional parking lot and save money, but it also kind of bring some activities for kids near the shelter and to that park, where there's some already restrooms and that type of thing. We're just asking for approval of that contract.
Questions for Mike on this?
Mike, is it going to be like to the left of that shed when you pull up to it?
Yes, sir.
In that
It'll
open
be
area
at
there?
the end of that parking lot. That's what we've submitted to the
Okay.
Corps of Engineers, to put it right there. They'll have to review that and make sure that they're okay with anything that might be there. But we put it down there where it wouldn't be right next to the shelter. So if somebody had that shelter rented, others coming over there wouldn't bother them.
Yeah.
But close enough where the people that's got the shelter rented could use it as well.
I went over there today, I was trying to figure out exactly where it was going to be, and I
Yes,
thought
sir.
that's probably what it was.
Yes, sir. And we were trying to work around practice fields and floodplain and all the things that go along out there.
Golf balls.
Golf balls, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Other questions for Mike? We'll move on to item 12, which is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute a contract with Miracle Recreation for the installation of a new playground at Pioneer Park. Mike?
Yes, ma'am. Along those same lines, Pioneer Park, which is kind of a pocket park over on Pioneer Drive, a 5-acre park, actually, you would never know it. But we're asking to replace that playground over there. It's 25 years old and pretty much served its life, but it's also very simple. So we're asking to replace that with a bigger playground and kind of use a bigger footprint to serve the citizens over there. And also give them, when that shelter's rented, give them a little bit more play space as well. So if you looked at the aerial where we're going to expand, we do have to take out a little sidewalk, but we felt like we needed more play space over there. The installation cost for that is $10,000, and the total cost is $70,000. And I want to add that both of these projects are in our capital improvements budget and right at the budget number that's in there.
Questions for Mike on this? Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.
Item 13 is consideration of appointments to boards and committees. Brian and Casey and Kathy and myself sat down and kind of looked at these, and we've had a really nice group of applicants for our boards and committees, and we will be making those appointments at our next meeting in March. Other, I guess we're ready for director's reports. Any who's outside? Great. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Wonderful.
A couple of quick things. On March the 1st, we will be starting the AMI program with the meter changeouts for water. So contractor will be in working. We'll do a minimal number to begin with, test it to make sure everything looks good in the system, and then they'll bring a few more contractors in or a few more personnel in, and we'll be going full bore. We will start in the Jefferson Pike area to try to get that done and out of the way before all the heavy construction hits. So that'll be starting March 1st. The other thing, I want to let you guys know the utility systems performed wonderfully during this extreme cold weather. Had minimal issues at best, probably couldn't have asked for any better, so was very pleased with how everything performed, and we were good to go there.
Great. Questions for Mike?
We had plenty of salt. So we had plenty of salt.
We'll get to that in a few minutes.
Okay.
Todd, you up?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor and Council, in response to an open records request earlier today, there's some interesting data that came out of it. The request was for valuation of building permits, and we want to pass along some of the numbers, which we think are outstanding. For commercial industrial projects valuation, where they're valuing the total project for the permit, the total was $33 million is what we were issuing permits for, and it's a total of about 387,000 square feet. And for 2020, yes. And so for new residential, which this was another impressive number, new residential home permit valuations, it was $123,786,000, and for a total of over 2 million square footage of homes, and that concludes approximately about 789 units that we pushed through in 2020 through codes.
I think everybody knows what a great place Smyrna is, and everybody wants to be here, so
Yeah, we were very impressed with the
Pretty
numbers.
pretty obvious, so. Anything, questions for Todd? Thanks, Todd. Anybody else out in the lobby?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I just wanted to report, last week, we had a lot of snow and ice coming down, and Public Works Department, Street Stormwater Department's out there plowing and salting a lot of roads. And as you know, that with salt and with ice and snow come a lot of potholes, so I just want to let you know that we are actively working on repairing those potholes right now. If anybody has any areas that have a lot of pothole activity, please give us a call. You can call us at our Public Works number, 615-459-9766, or you can go online and send in an email request and just let us know where those are at, and we'll be happy to come out there and take care of it.
Yeah, I saw Sessions, seen some spots on the Young Springs today, and also saw street sweepers out this week, so appreciate all of that work. I was thinking when a street sweeper swept by, I was like, man, that's perfect timing.
Yeah. All falls into play.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say how much we appreciate all that the guys in your department did. There were lots of hours, and the safety of the citizens in Smyrna, I know, were top on the list for them. And it was lots of late nights and long days, but we sure do appreciate the job that they did.
Thank
so.
you. They enjoy doing it. It's hard work, but those guys really get into it. They lost time with their family to go and have fun in the snow and do those sorts of things, but instead they're dedicated. They came in here and served the town.
That's right.
Yeah, good call not letting Brian drive the plow.
Yeah.
Good call.
Well, and speaking of that, I just want to say to Brian, thank you for being there every day. I mean, I don't know that there was a day that you weren't out there making sure everything was okay within each department. And I think that's what being a leader is about. It's about stepping up. It's about, even during those times, when it's cold and you may not want to get out and come check on it, you do that. And we appreciate that, and we appreciate you putting the citizens of the town of Smyrna first.
Well, thank you, Mayor. And while we're there, I've got a list here that I want to take just a moment of privilege. I had it on my agenda to thank not only the streets department, but also our fire and police. Both of them had record calls for helping our citizens. I'm happy to report less wrecks than we normally have, but calls for help were many, and our fire and police did a phenomenal job. I know Mike mentioned about the utilities, and our water treatment and water plant did a great job of keeping everything working and flowing for us. I have to just, because of the work that was done by the streets department, and I'm gonna give a special shout out today to the Salty Dog Express, and for those guys that were out there, they'll know what I'm talking about.
Did they give you a nickname?
No, I didn't get a nickname.
He can't say it on TV.
I bet they did.
I bet he did. He can't say it on TV.
It wasn't one they shared with me.
Oh, they have one.
But let me tell you something, if you ever get a chance to ride in a plow truck in 8 or 6 inches of snow, it's an exciting event. But I just want to personally, Andy Miller from Smyrna Police Department and Michael Potts from Smyrna Police Department, who kind of led the charge for us. They did a great job of blocking the streets so our scrapers and salt trucks could get in and get the work done. There's a picture on the screen right now, but individually, Chaz Dearman, Evan Christopher, Larry Anderson, Ethan Springer, Justin Seal, Blake Parker, J.D. Knowles, John Mashburn, Bradley Jordan, and Ricky Bounds, and then also Lee Parnell and Tom Rose. These guys, I don't know that the town can ever understand how many hours they put in last week. And as Tom said, every time I went out there, they were having a good time. They were enjoying what they were doing. They take that work very serious. And, the things that people don't realize that happen, those 3 trucks that you see on the screen with a blade on front of them, we were having to replace the bottom blade every day. That's how hard the scraping was on that ice that came down. It was really a tough situation to get, a couple of inches of ice and then 6 inches of snow on top of it. But those guys were working
every waking moment to keep the streets clear. I know some residents that probably are not as happy because we didn't get to their subdivisions, those kind of things, but our main arteries and arterial roads to keep the fire protection, the police protection, ambulances where they could get through, and keep, major business operations working, we're taking care of. It was a tough week, but they did a great job, and I just want to give a shout out to each one of these guys and the dedication they have for the town. We've got a great, I've said it so many times, the blessing of the town of Smyrna is the employees. And these guys shined this week for us. I promise you, they did a great job.
Well, and how many names were there on that were actually in the street department?
12 streets department and 2 police officers that were out there every day.
So you think about the number of roads, and it wasn't like you go do it one time and you're done. It's over and over, and so.
Well, you have to put the salt down and then come back and plow after the salt's had time to work. One day, I know they reported to me that they had plowed over 100 miles of roads in Smyrna that day.
And what I think sometimes our citizens don't understand is we don't have the luxury of having a TDOT size staff
No.
in regards to
Well,
the
you
streets
can
department.
never upsize for this, once
That's
every
right.
20-year type storm. The citizens couldn't, the tax burden would be greater than we could ever,
Absolutely.
hope to recoup. But I'm telling you, with the equipment they had, we did have a piece of equipment that went down on us, so we just made do. I will say, I appreciate too that we had Jacobs Construction come in and help us with some stuff. But I think all in all, I don't know why any citizen would complain about what they saw after the event of last week, so.
Yep.
Brian, just a testament, I was traveling that week and I missed the beginning of it all, but I couldn't get home because of it all. And so I ended up renting a car and driving home, and had to go to the airport first. So on the way home from there, I crossed through a couple communities, is my point. And as soon as I hit the Smyrna line, I could tell a difference. There's, I read your report today, literally hundreds and hundreds of tons of salt were used. And to say what the mayor said, I appreciate what these guys did and what everybody that participated in getting the roads cleared out. I was on them, and I think everybody probably here at some point had to travel on them. And
We started out with somewhere between 400 and 500 tons of salt in storage, and we didn't run out, but Raquel, we could see the bottom of the barrel. We were getting real close. We did get a 200-ton shipment in Monday, so just in case another event happens, we have got some salt back in, and we've got some more coming, so we did get close, trust me. And we weren't the only community close, trust me on that one.
But I'm just saying, we stood out,
Yeah,
and that's not a knock on any other community. It's a hard job.
It is.
But we stood out, and our crew stood out, so just want to say thanks to everybody. Tom, please pass that on from all of us.
I sure will, thank you.
Other questions for Tom? Is anybody else in the lobby?
I think that's all in the lobby, so.
Kevin?
Just real quickly, we do have a busy planning commission next week. I do want to kind of touch base on one thing, though, we talked about probably a year or so ago. They got delayed till now and maybe a little longer, but FEMA is looking at updating some of the flood maps. And we were ready actually to go to public meetings last March, and so they obviously pulled back on those then. And I don't have any dates yet or anything like that, but they are looking like that's probably maybe this spring they're going to kick that project back up. And so we had identified all the parcels that would be affected, either good or bad, with those changes, at least those proposed changes. And so we'll have to update we built a database of addresses and owners and all those kind of things. We're going to have to update that, obviously, because things may have changed in the past year. But just want to bring that up again, that is probably still going to happen and probably going to be kicking off here in the next couple of months. So for everyone's here as well as the citizens. So that's all I
And
got.
I should have asked you, or told you I was going to ask you this, but I just thought about it. Tell us kind of where we are with census and what else going on. What are you hearing? I'm hearing the numbers are going to be late, but are you hearing anything?
I'm not hearing anything other than the numbers are going to be late. Yeah, of course, they had to have everything to finish by December 31st, and they made that deadline. They were supposed to get them April, I think, or so. And I've heard they're going to be late, but I don't have anything beyond that.
Same thing, so.
Yeah.
Questions for Kevin? Thanks, Kevin. Rex, anything?
Do my usual revenue reports. Now, these reports will be for December transactions, which will be for the Christmas shopping season. State share tax, we received $701,428. That gives us a year-to-date surplus of $246,069. Local sales tax received $1,784,627. It gives us a year-to-date surplus of $1,853,883. And we did get some new revenue that we've never received before. It's called the sports gaming tax. November 1, 2020 was the effective date of licensees collecting this privilege tax. Tennessee Action 24/7, FanDuel, BetMGM, and DraftKings are some of the licensees that are been approved for these sports books. The new law requires for each licensee to pay a privilege tax to the state of Tennessee of 20% of the license's adjusted gross income. Sounds like a 1040 tax return. 80% of the tax revenue goes into an education account that mostly funds post-secondary scholarships. 15% goes toward local government needs, and 5% funds gambling problem treatment programs. The privilege tax collected will be remitted quarterly on a per capita basis. Therefore, we will be reporting this on the state shared tax report. Our first payment for November and December months totaled $6,125.36. So if you kind of do the math on that, it looks like we may bring in somewhere between $35,000 and $40,000 a year, but that's expected to grow. We also,
Rex, on that gambling tax, how do they determine how much of it comes here as opposed to going anywhere else?
it's based on the population of the state of Tennessee.
So it's
It'll be our 50,000 divided by however many citizens
so we need
there
Kevin
are.
to get our census up then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it doesn't help to bet local.
So what we need
Rex,
to,
that was a good one.
we need to spend local, the
Yes.
money that you would bet elsewhere,
That's right,
so.
that's right.
Spend your winnings local.
I will, hey, they sure are advertising it a lot, I can tell you
That's
that.
why I think it'll grow.
Yeah,
It is all over the TV.
it is. It is.
Also, in the Tennessee Town and City magazine, that's a lot of us get, there was some interesting information in there. It said consumers continue to focus spending on items such as building materials, auto sales, and groceries, but a large part of the state's sales tax growth can be credited to the impact of the state's marketplace facilitator law, which is a fancy way of internet out-of-state companies. As much as 3.4% of January's sales tax growth can be attributed to this newly expanded tax base, which is a reflection of internet sales, and nearly 2.4% of all sales tax growth for the years due to the law change. So if I understand what was in that article, that's already brought us an extra $220,000. And if we're talking about the expanded tax base, they were referencing that to the threshold before October was $500,000, and they dropped it down to $100,000. So that's expanded the base. So I saw that, thought that was interesting, and that's all I have.
Great. Questions for Rex? Thanks, Rex. Chief, anything from you? Mike Moss? No? Charles?
Mayor and Council, just bring you up to date on the Sam Ridley Widening project. The utilities have been completed. The stormwater work is nearing completion. Signal poles started being installed today. Base grade stone is being laid. Slopes are being graded and the excess material is being removed from the project. On the Washington Street at CSX crossing, CSX notified us that they have scheduled September of 2021 to replace the gates and install ped gates for that crossing project there. And Mike and I had a meeting with the plans consultant for the Lee Victory Park entrance that comes off Nolan Drive, and we're looking at a spring bid date at this time.
Right. Questions for Charles? Thanks. Miss Diane?
I just want to thank my staff, which consisted of Robin, Jenny, Tammy, and myself. Monday alone, we serviced 340 people. That's in person or at the drive-through, and over 140 calls that day. So I just want to thank them for their hard. Yes, we did. We were making up for that week. We were off.
It was cool over there too, wasn't it?
And no heat. We came in Monday.
no heat.
Yeah.
But I bet you were so busy, you probably didn't even notice.
Yeah. And we also issued 52 new business licenses this month and 95 renewals. So we've been busy.
Wow. Brian?
Yes, Mayor and Council, I do have a couple of things. Tom already mentioned this, but I'm going to put something on the screen for everybody right after the storm. The next thing comes is the potholes. So we are in that phase of roadway repairs, and if you see any potholes, have any question about potholes, please call 615-459-9766 and report those for us, and we'll get attention to those as quick as possible. It saddens me to tell you again, we do have to bring some condolences tonight. We have a couple of our employees that lost their mother, DJ Carter, and many of you know Cindy Carter here in the community, and I think her funeral was yesterday. And then also over the snow event, Doyle Bradford lost his mother. So our hearts go out to both of those families and our prayers. So I did have a recognition of appreciation from Nancy Weatherly related to the death of her Keith Weatherly. So they did acknowledge receiving something from us. Town Hall, I want to remind everybody the VITA site is up and running. They're occupying the downstairs portal where the police department used to be located, Wednesdays through Saturdays. I think their hours are 10 to 1 here, and then they're leaving here and going to Patterson Park to finish out the day. Any household with earned less than $66,000 in 2020, you're eligible for VITA free tax prep. You can call 615-830-7940 or visit www.yourlocaluw.org/VITA. This is a partnership with the United Way and the VITA folks, and then we're partnering with them, providing a space here in Smyrna. They are, I can tell you, already very busy. I received an email from Carol Purrier. Most of you know Carol over at TCAT. February is Career and Technical Education Month, and she wanted to just send out thank yous to our partnerships, and TCAT Murfreesboro Smyrna is celebrating the achievements and accomplishments of their programs, and they do value our partnership and then what they bring to the community as far as training for future employees. We do appreciate them. The last thing I have, I did receive an email from this gentleman with a huge thank you to Officer Zach Williams in assisting him last night to get home. This was during the snow event. He was an off-duty deputy with the Sheriff's Department and lives here in Smyrna. After an hour of trying to get to his apartment, which I think is the one's located behind Target, he couldn't achieve that. He called our non-emergency number. Officer Williams went out and arrived in a timely manner and graciously gave him a ride home to his apartment and helped him get home that night. He was very appreciative of all the work, Smyrna Police and fire departments and all the work that was going on. He just wanted to show some appreciation. So, Mayor and Council, that's all I have this evening.
Great. Jeff?
I have nothing.
Raquel?
Condolences to the Carter and Bradford families, and also like to thank Tom and Charles for the update on the roads, the meeting we had today. Thank you for that. That's always very informative and helps us to be able to let citizens know what's going on. So thank you all. And to the Water Department, Public Works, Fire and Police for all that you've done during our bad weather days that we had last week. You wouldn't even know it as of today that we had gone through what we went through last week. But thank you all for your hard work, and Brian for your leadership in that. And I brought up the salt, asked the question about the salt, because I remember back in the summer how Mike would come up and he told us how we were able to get the salt for the same price. And at the time, you wouldn't have thought about how important it would have been. But thank God we had it to be able to use it and to keep our streets clean. So that's why I thought about the salt, because I remember that.
We were seeing the bottom of that barrel. I promise you, we were watching it.
Yeah. So that's all I have.
Gosh, we're all gonna sound like a broken record tonight, but good job to all the town employees on, and really to all of the citizens of Smyrna. I mean, everybody interacted real well and seemed to help each other out throughout the town, and because it was quite a momentous event, and seeing everybody out sledding and having a good time. I mean, it was something that just doesn't happen that often, and honestly, I think it was between the ice and the snow. I don't know if I've ever seen it quite that bad. Also, once again, condolences to Doyle Bradford. He's a good, loyal Parks employee. And then, Miss Cindy Carter. Known her a very long time, all of her family a very long time. One of the first things that came into my mind when they told me that she has passed is her and Donnie are together again. And, they were quite a pair and were very integral in a lot of different aspects of the Parks Department, more especially the football and of course the boys in basketball. And, they're good Smyrna citizens. And I guess, Mary Esther, I'll leave you with two things. Shop local, which is no joke. We say it every time, but it is very important, as Rex told us. Our local sales tax helps keep our property taxes low. And, also be kind, Mary Esther. Thank you.
I try really hard to do that. I think sometimes you need to practice what you preach, though.
You're talking to me?
I'm talking to you.
Looking in the mirror?
Be kind.
What?
Oh. Tim?
Yeah, I'd like to extend my heartfelt condolences to both the Carter and Bradford families, and just the overwhelming gratitude of our streets department, our police department, fire. Brian, your leadership during the weather event. Ms. Diane, thank you for the dedication that you've always had and your employees had. It's just a great bunch of folks to be associated with, and it makes us look really good up here. Thank you.
Jerry?
All right. I as well just send out my condolences to the Bradford and the Carter family. Of course, known Donnie Joe and Cindy for a long time. Donnie Joe used to help as an assistant basketball coach when I was playing at Smyrna a long time ago. But just always was at the ball games, and so much appreciative of that. Also, like the others have said, just a big thank you to the street department, the water department, the fire, the police, all you guys and ladies just really have stepped up, and really so much appreciative of all that you've done. And you don't get to probably practice that type of thing very often, which is I'm glad, but certainly appreciate it. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is on March the 10th, The Sister City Student Exchange Program is having a drive-through chili supper. It's just it's a fundraiser for our committee and the students to help them hopefully eventually get to Japan, and for Japan students to get here in the States. We didn't get to happen last year. They were supposed to come here, did not happen. Still holding our breath and crossing our fingers and all that they'll get to come this year, and then our group will get to go next year. But if you can come, we'd certainly appreciate it. It's going to be at the Senior Activity Center here in Smyrna. It's on Rake Street, and just from 4:30 to 6:30. So if anybody can come, we sure would like to have you.
Jerry, I think you said March the 10th. I was thinking it was the 20th.
Oh, thank you for saying that. It is
Yeah.
March the 20th. I'm
Okay.
sitting there looking right straight at it. It is March the 20th. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all.
Steve?
Couple things. I would also like to add my condolences to the Carter family, Steve and DJ, and their kids and wives. Miss Carter was she's one of those people that when you think of Smyrna High School, you think of her. And so she will be greatly missed by the entire community, and we offer our prayers of condolences for you. Also, council, you guys should have in front of you a little card from the Rutherford County Library Foundation. They will be hosting a fundraising event. One of the things that, obviously, the Rutherford County library system is funded by each town, Murfreesboro, Smyrna, Eagleville, and Rutherford County. One of the other sources of revenue for the library is the Rutherford County Library Foundation. So they supplement the library functions, such as things like book purchases and capital projects that kind of pop up that may have not been funded. So this is a benefit for that. I think the money this year is earmarked to go towards Eagleville's library. They're looking at doing some work out there. But this will be posted on my Facebook, but it's a Lively Evening on Main at the Lively Mansion, May 1st, and tickets are available at livelyevening.eventbrite.com, and your ticket includes dinner, dessert, and drinks. So if you looking for a way to give back, or just looking for an opportunity to give some money to a good cause and get something for it, sign up and get dinner out of it. That's it.
Great, thanks.
HG alluded to the fact that it may sound like a broken record up here, but it kind of does, and I'll tell you why I think it does. All of us grew up here. Every one of us grew up in this town, and we've all been here probably 50-plus years, right? So I think we all genuinely care when we lose people that we grew up with or that we knew about. I think of the Carter family, and DJ being a little boy, and Donnie and Cindy. I mean, like Steve said, they just resonated Smyrna and youth football and so forth. So my condolences to DJ and his entire family for the loss of his mom. Also the Bradford family, the loss of their mother. Again, just to be repetitious, thank you all that kept our roads clear. Chief, all your people, our street department, our road cleaning crews, the safety part of it. I think we came out of this relatively unscathed, really, and that's just a tribute to everybody that pitched in and did a great job. So I know I'm speaking for the council because we've all mentioned it. We appreciate each and every one of the people that got out there and worked long hours and didn't get much rest to try to make our town a little bit safer to travel through. Diane, to your team, thank you again. I have a sister-in-law that works in kind of a similar environment, and when they get backed up, it's not pleasant. They get hollered at and they get chewed out and things like that. So knowing you and your team, I'm sure everybody came through that line was just as pleasant as they could be. And if
One day they even started singing and dancing.
well, there you go.
So we had fun.
That was Monday after the storm, after we'd been closed for several days. So I'm sure you guys got slammed, and many of our departments probably did with a backlog of work. So thank you all for pitching in and bringing things back up to normal. Also, there was a loss in Murfreesboro. Roger Haley passed away this past week from COVID. And so our condolences to the Haley family. And Roger had a similar role as you do, Brian, except he did it in Murfreesboro, and he is now retired. Roger was a good man, And so the Murfreesboro community and the Rutherford County community has lost a good person there. So, and lastly, I'm not going to steal any thunder. I think the mayor may have something like this. I didn't talk to her about this, but vaccinations are taking place. The numbers seem to be going down. So at some point, my prayer is that just we get some normality back in our lives. 2020 was just a wild, crazy year. It's challenging, and it feels like we're turning the corner. So, Mayor, I'm done. Thank you.
So just a couple of items. First thing, I had a Smyrna resident in my store today, and she said, I have a favor to ask. And I was like, okay, what? And she said, why are the flags at half-staff? And she said, is there any way you all can let us, as citizens, know when we drive by? And I will tell you, it is not a day goes by if the flags are at half-staff that my dad doesn't call me and say, why are the flags at half-staff? Well, Chief Bill always sends out an email to let everybody know so that the flags can be lowered. And if I'm not mistaken, 5 days for the 500,000 that Americans that we have lost to COVID is why they are down currently. But that's an easy thing. It was an easy ask. So I talked to Brian and we talked to Kathy, and it's already been put up on our Facebook to let the citizens know. So if there are requests like that, we are happy to look into to see if it's something that we can do, but it was one of those things that I was like, why did I not think of that, when my own dad's asking every time.
And Chief, if you don't mind, share with us when we get the request for the half-mast. It's not, we
Right.
cannot determine that locally. We don't just, it's a presidential declaration.
It does, it comes from the.
Will you go to the microphone? Sorry. Just so that.
It comes from the White House first as the executive order of the president, and then usually I'll wait for Governor Lee to bless it also. But it just works down.
So
and I get
Governor
it
Lee
done.
also can do it as well, can he not?
That he can. And
Yes.
I initially get it from the White House.
But the reason I wanted to say that is we've had a couple of people call and asked if we could put just the Smyrna flags, but the American flag in Smyrna at half-mast for the passing of somebody, that's very meaningful to the community. We do not have that ability to do that. It has to be White House or governor driven to go to half-mast.
Right. Thanks, Chief. But if there's something like that we might be able to provide the citizens, and we can't accommodate everything, but it was just one of those things that was an easy thing to get out, easy to fix. We've talked about how wonderful the employees are. There is no community I'd rather be in than the town of Smyrna. Our employees put our citizens first, sometimes even above their families. And it doesn't matter if it's a flood, if it's a tornado, if it's snow, or just their daily jobs that they do. And I feel very blessed to live in a community in which we have employees like we do. So thank you to each one of you. To the citizens, we asked for your help. We ask that you stay off the roads. We ask that for your safety and for ours that you do that. And for the most part, you guys did that. And I can't tell you how much that we appreciate that. I think the snow and the ice kind of gave us a little break from COVID. Not that we quit social distancing, not that we quit wearing our mask, but I think it emotionally gave us a little bit of a break. We got to get out. No matter what age you are, when you see snow, it brings back that little kid in us. And I think that helped us that week of that snow and the fun that we got to have at home gave us a little bit of an emotional break. And I think all of us needed that. So anything else? Anybody have anything else? If there's nothing else, then we are adjourned.